Shalom, call Haloyim Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakhakwadash, Shunya Kabad Gadwala Requabs Aquanium Nawa, Shalayakim Nawa. That's double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Shalawam Waparakim Labakarium Shalayasharala. That's peace and blessings to the elect of Israel, and as always, may a double portion of the Holy Spirit be put upon all the brothers that are still offering your bodies as a living sacrifice, pushing out this word in truth and in sincerity. I just wanted to bring out this article really quickly. As you can see, it says, "We're so hungry," while Cubans are taking to the streets in biggest protests for decades. And the subtitle says, "More than 10,000 protesters hit the streets on the communist island in the most widespread social unrest seen since the 1990s. So through the Spirit, I'm going to entitle this, "Manasseh is already going through Jacob's trouble," or has already entered into Jacob's trouble. And this was just posted July 12th, so today, 2021. And just bringing this out because, of course, the Bible talks about a time of Jacob's trouble where not just the Manassites, but all the nation of Israel and really anybody in specific areas, especially over here in Babylon the Great, is going to go through this time of trouble that never was, nor shall be. And as a matter of fact, let's start off with the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, and then, we'll jump back to the article. Salakia, a little bit stuffed up today. Daniel 12 and 1 says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book," meaning the elect out of the nation of Israel. They're going to be protected, they're going to be delivered. And Lord's will, all of us pushing out this word in truth and in sincerity are a part of that number. So with that being said, let's jump back into this article and see exactly what they're going through, because it's exactly what we've been saying is going to happen. And this is going to be coming to a Babylonian city near you very soon. So it says, "Thousands of Cubans took to the streets this weekend in 90-degree heat to protest the country's communist regime in a shocking display of public rage not seen since 1994. Though discontentment with the government has simmered since the beginning of the pandemic, recent food and medicine shortages," so famine, an actual famine meaning a lack of bread or a scarcity of food and water. So recent food and medicine shortages, coupled with the newest surge in COVID-19 infections, prompted the latest protests, a rare sight on the communist island. They're cutting off the electricity in poor areas for almost 12 hours a day. There are places where the lights haven't been on for 3 days. "We're exhausted," a supporter in Central Habana told Vice World News by phone. So lack of food, and of course that means water, lack of medicine, and no electricity in certain areas for days. That's what's going on to this is what's happening in Manasseh right now. Cuba. Protests against the regime in December consisted of a few dozen artists standing in front of the Ministry of Culture in Havana, quietly demanding freedom of expression. But this time around, over 10,000 people demonstrated in at least 19 Cuban cities, shouting, looting, and throwing rocks at police officers. No regard for their kings, in the book of 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter. Looting, also 2nd Esdras 15. Lord's will, we're going to read that next. It says protesters who spoke with Vice World News. And as we read certain articles like this, it should naturally, if the Spirit is working with you, then naturally certain scriptures should just start popping up in your head. And we don't just push this out as a fear tactic. Yes, a part of us bringing these things out is to let you know that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is to be feared, because this is coming, it's inevitable. But the flip side, and more importantly, is to build up the spirit of the elect, to let you know that we have the ability, the opportunity right now to prepare ourselves by increasing our faith, by asking the Most High in the name of his only begotten Son to forgive us for our sins, by praying, fasting, offering our bodies as a living sacrifice. If we do these things, then Lord's will, we have a very, very, very good chance of being protected during the time of Jacob's trouble and then ultimately delivered. So anyway, continuing on, it says protesters who spoke, protesters who spoke with Vice World News said chants such as "We are not afraid" became louder and louder as the streets filled and people felt the safety of numbers. So the more of them that went out there and protested, they said, you know what, well, this guy's there, that guy's there, got one in front of me, got one in the back of me, I'm good. So more and more came. The combination of the pandemic and the United States embargo has suffocated Cuba's ability to procure enough basic goods to keep the population fed and healthy. Waiting in line to receive rations of bread, and we talked about that plenty of times in the past, starting with our apostles and elders on down, how there's going to be a rationing of food coming very soon, but it's currently happening down there in Cuba. Waiting in line to receive rations of bread, rice, and chicken often takes all day, and food at many government supermarkets is far too expensive for the average Cuban and is only sold for US dollars. Public pleas to citizens from institutions like the University of Havana to donate unused goods in recent days suggest medicine shortages and could mean COVID patients in some provinces have not received adequate care. And of course, we understand that that's a pestilence. Though Cuban immunologists created two effective vaccines, I'll say, only 15% of the population has been, and I'll say, vaccinated. And I want to jump around to make sure we're getting only the meat from this article. Let me see real quick. Yeah, I'll read this paragraph. Once the surge in COVID cases became a public health emergency, Cubans began sharing the hashtag SOS Cuba on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, a message of solidarity that morphed into the largest protest movement in decades. Yomil, a popular Cuban rapper, was one of the first public figures to urge followers to take to the streets. Check what he said. "We were so hungry, we ate our fear." That's why I wanted to read this paragraph. He said that "we're so hungry, we ate our fear" is one of his posts on Twitter. Meaning what? They basically had nothing to lose. Lack of food, lack of water, a little bit of electricity, and they had nothing else to do. They had to swallow their fear, and they said, we got to do what we got to do. Go out there and protest. And now they're coming up against the police. And even further down in the article, it says that the military came out there too. So they're bucking up against them. I'm going to jump down. I don't want to read the entire article. Just want to get a few main points on here. Right, this article is saying how randomly during the protest, then certain Cuban activists and journalists disappeared, have just gone missing. Oh, I'll read it. I'll read this article, this paragraph. Check it out. It says, in several cities, counter-protesters arrived to aid the police shouting, "Viva Fidel." Several government sources claim the protesters were paid, which they probably were, while the Cuban government newspaper Granma conceded that some well-meaning yet misled Cubans were probably there as well. Now check this out. This is just hitting everything we've been talking about. The government turned off internet access across the island in a vain attempt to quell communication between protesters. The government turned off internet. Shouldn't that remind you of famine of the word now? So not talking about an actual lack of bread, we're talking about a lack or scarcity of hearing the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. The main way it's been going out is by the internet, putting these videos on YouTube that allowed them to reach the four corners of the earth, and I'm sure Cuba as well. But the internet's been shut off down there. It says, while eyes were fixated on the protests, several prominent Cuban activists and journalists disappeared, and some have not been heard from since. So a lot's going on over there in Cuba right now. Police officers dragging a chick, it talks about jumping down, blase, blase. The mayor of Miami jumped in, had something to say. Joe Biden has something to say. And that's basically it. That's the entire article. As you can see, a lot's going on over there in Cuba right now. Manasseh is currently going through Jacob's trouble. And honestly, it's only going to get worse even over there. The scriptures talk about apparitions, seeing demons, spiritual things that you wouldn't believe that are going to come to this physical plane, but they are. But to the elects, or to the elect, I'll just say, then hopefully if we're part of that number, we have nothing to worry about. We just continue to do what we're doing right now, offering our body as a living sacrifice, and we'll be protected and kept safe in that day. That's what the scriptures say. But let's jump over now and grab some scripts. This is the book of 2nd Ezra 15. And I want to get at verse 14 through 19. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. And this is an end time prophecy. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Swords meaning the modern day weapon today, which would be the gun. And they had that down there, or over there, I'll just say. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. We did read that there was looting, and of course rioting. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, aka your policemen or your government, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. They were hungry, they had to swallow their fear. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And I'm sure certain cities down there are getting barricaded and blocked off. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, famine, and for great tribulation. Lack of bread, no food, or scarcity of food, I'll just say. Electricity's going off in certain cities, for it says up to 3 days basically. Some places just 12 hours a day. It said lack of medicine. All that's going on over there. So imagine how they're living. Put yourself in just that kind of a world in your mind. That's what you have to do. When you read these articles, you got to put yourself mentally in that world and say, what would I be doing? What would I hope? What do I hope that I would be doing during that time? And the answer you should have just came up with, first and foremost, is praying. That should be the very first step that you do. Pray that the Lord watches over you and protects you and guides you in that day. And then from there you move in the spirit. But this is definitely coming to Babylon the Great very, very, very soon. And this is basically how the Lord is visiting the world. As we read in 2nd Ezra's, the 9th chapter, starting at verse 1, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And so what are some of those signs? Well, let's keep reading verse 3. I was going to name it, but it goes into it. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So everything, famine, plagues, pestilences, wars and rumors of wars, as we read in Matthew the 24th chapter, lack of food, All these things are part of those signs. These are prophecies that are coming to pass and that are being spoken about or that have been written about in the Holy Scriptures way before we were born. And that's a beautiful thing, being able to read the Scriptures and see something that was written thousands of years ago come to pass right now in these days. That's how we know we're living in the very end. Let me jump over to the book of Revelation, the 3rd chapter, I believe that is. Let me see. Yeah. I want to read this because I said that we're not just pushing these videos out just to promote fear and that's it. It's also to relay the balance and let you know that yes, this time is coming, this time of trouble is coming, but the elect will be saved out of it. That's why the scriptures talk about working out your own fear with your own fear, working out your own salvation with fear and trembling. There's a reason why it says with fear and trembling, because we understand that the Most High Yahweh is a terrible power. This is what he's bringing to the world right now. And it's going to be coming on a very much bigger, a larger scale. Revelation 3:10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, meaning we've suffered for the Lord's sake, his name and his doctrine. I also, so because we've done that, it says, I also, referring to the Lord, will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So in the midst of Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation is going to be when that chip is made mandatory, when it's severely pushed with those draconian laws and measures to the point where most people are going to bow down to the image of Baal and they're going to say, forget it, I have no other option. But as long as we keep suffering for the Lord's sake, and I use that word lightly, we understand the word patience means to suffer, but the scriptures say that what we're going through is a light affliction. What we're going through right now is nothing compared to the blessing of being protected in the time of Jacob's trouble. It's a blessing. It's going to be a blessing having the Lord protect us and keep us away from getting that chip. We're not going to be strong enough on our own will. We need Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's spirit to be upon us, to strengthen us, and to increase our minds so that we can resist it. It's not going to be on our own accord. The Lord is going to be the one to put that kind of mentality in us to resist. But we have to keep doing what we're doing right now. And let me grab one more scripture, since we're on this protection and delivering kind of a topic. This is the book of 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But the Most High is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able. Meaning the Lord is not going to put you through something that he knows you're not able to go through or to make it out of. It says, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So the Lord is going to put something in front of you, an obstacle. He's going to put a hurdle in front of you, but it's going to be a hurdle that he knows you can jump over. And then on top of that, he's going to, through the Spirit, lift you up over it. So it's not even you jumping. So in the Spirit, we have nothing to worry about. And I say it like that because the scriptures say to put on as the elect, meaning we have to have a mindset of salvation, knowing the Lord is going to protect us and keep us safe. And so with that being said, I just wanted to quickly bring out that article, hit the main points, and jump to those scriptures. As you can see, Manasseh is going through it, but this is definitely coming to Babylon the Great very soon in the Spirit. We can tell, we can see it, and we know it. So continue to hold the faith and get your mind right. Prepare yourself spiritually for this time to come. Call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem L'chakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.